Okay, this is going to be fun for me. So, a lot of you guys have your tree and you don't have pictures of certain relatives, right? And it's hard for you to picture some of these people and you really do want to picture them, right? I'm going to show you a way that you can kind of put some imagery around your ancestor and have a picture for them in your tree or just to share with family and tell a story. So I'm going to tell a story about one of my ancestors. So his name was Andre Lebeau. Now, his official name was Andre Pignou, which means little pines. And that name came from his father because and I believe his grandfather, because they lived in a piney area in northern France. And so back in those times, some of you may know that they used to give you last names based on where you lived, what you did for a living, or something very distinct about you. Fun fact, when you are in the deaf community, they assign nicknames to each other in the same way based on those same things. So if you have if you're known for your nose or something like that, they may use a sign for nose when they are using the initial of your first name, and everybody in your circle will know you based on that nickname they gave you because everybody knows you're known for your nose. Well, in similar fashion, in the 1500s, this is how a lot of people got their last names. So Andre Pignou, he was apparently a very handsome guy, and so they started to call him Andre Lebeau. He also had another name, which was Lalouette. Now, most people who research into the name Lebeau, they will find Lalouette and they usually will stop right there. But they think that Lalouette turned into Lebeau, and that's not correct. What actually happened is Andre was known for two things: being handsome and either having a high-pitched voice or being a good singer, because Lalouette means the lark, and that was a nickname for him. So his name actually translated into Andre the Handsome One, aka the Lark. D-I-T in France back then meant also known as. Later on, that turned into like from or of the, right? And they usually would use that to like assign a region to a person to help identify somebody, because usually they would pass down names and it became kind of hard to distinguish which person is which. But in any case, that's where Lalouette came from, but surely more people started to use the Lebeau name instead. So everybody that was a Lebeau came from Andre. He lived in France, then they migrated to Canada, and then from Canada to Point Coupé. There was also a Lebeau that was in, I'll have to pull it up. But anyway, that's where the Lebeaus came from. No matter how it's spelled, everybody who's a Lebeau came from Andre. And fun fact, usually when there's a D on the end of Lebeau, that means that's the black side of the family. Okay, so I wanted, because I've been curious for years. I'm like, I gotta know what this dude looks like. He's a legend. One thing the Lebeaus are known for is very strong genes, especially with the males. The males, across generations, you line them all up, they all look like their brothers. So knowing that about them, I went to ChatGPT and I gave it a description and described Andre the way that most of the males in the Lebeau family look.
So I told it to create an image based on what I commonly see whenever I look at the Lebeau men. And just to make sure that I was right, I didn't just go to my tree. I looked at men from my tree. I went to search on Ancestry's new feature, and it allows you to see pictures and niche down. You can filter down all the way to, an individual at a certain place at a certain time, right? So I knew that the Lebeau men were also in Canada and France. So I looked at any man that had the name Lebeau in Canada, France, and Louisiana, and just throughout the country. And I saw so many similarities. 80 to 90% of the time, the Lebeau men always had almond-shaped eyes, a low brow, a distinctive nose, a strong jaw, and full lips. So this is the description I gave ChatGPT. Now, some of you might be wondering how this is possible, and I'm going to reveal exactly why the genes in this family are so strong that they've lasted for longer than the typical family's genes. Please don't mind the typos, guys. I was using speech to text as always, but ChatGPT understood exactly what I was trying to say. So this is the prompt that I used. I said, create an image of a man who lives in the 1570s. He is 20 years old and he is French. He has olive skin tone, a strong jaw, full lips, distinct but handsome nose that is common for French men. He has large almond eyes, low brow, strong brow, hazel eyes, a mustache, but facial hair that was common for the time. Dark brown, curly hair, wearing a common clothes from the time. And the background is wooded pines. He's strikingly handsome and very distinct. He has textured skin. And then I gave some prompts to make it, more HD. Now, aside from that, I got curious. I wondered, what did people in the late 1500s believe was handsome anyway? And, was it common for people to just give that nickname out? Because only two people had that nickname before him. And both of those guys were of nobility. They were, of course, known for being handsome, but they were also historical figures. They did not pass down that name. It truly was a nickname for them. But this is what ChatGPT said that I found quite interesting. Now you can pause to read, but basically ChatGPT said that it wasn't that common for people to give out that type of name. Basically, if you were given that type of name, it meant that you weren't just handsome, but you were very well liked and had a very strong presence. So that name really stuck with this guy because there was something about him. And so I just wanted to get more clear about, what type of look and, he typically had, like down to his skin tone and everything. And then I asked ChatGPT, just explain what was handsome in the first place when it comes to French men back then. And it literally described the man. Like, it literally read the same description back to me, basically. And now I get it. Based on what was attractive at the time back then, he definitely checked all the boxes. So that was cool. And just because I'm very thorough, I went ahead and looked up what men looked like during that time. And lo and behold, definitely that type of aesthetic was appreciated back then. Strong jaw, almond eyes, low brow, distinct nose, full lips, and someone who dressed very well. And so the whole mustache, the little goatee thing, that is something that was most common. I asked ChatGPT to run the typical aesthetic that is most common with LeBeau men. And I believe that when you take this approach, if you do a thorough research into what is the typical features that have passed down in your family, what did people of that area typically look like? And the reason why that's important is because how people live also impacts what they look like. This is also a major factor. The types of food people eat, the type of work they have, definitely impacts their aesthetic. Where you live, when you live, what you do, incorporated with what is the typical features that have passed down most consistently, is a good way that you can generally create a concept of what a person looked like based on everything you know about them. Let's reveal what I believe Andre LeBeau looked like. I took his picture and I, made it look a little bit more olive skin toned and, to match the description. But I believe he worked outdoors, so he would be a little bit more tan than what those pictures implied. And I don't know about you, but to me, he kind of looks like Luigi. I don't know. What do you think? Luigi is all Italian on both sides, but there are some definite French aesthetic going on there, in my opinion. And just because I do this all the time, I had fun and added my son's faces to Andre's picture. But anyway, I strongly encourage you guys to check out the new features on Ancestry. This is not paid. This is just me being a nerd. I'm telling you, once I saw this new feature where you're able to go in and put on smart search, I knew my whole evening was shot, period. Like, I knew I was not getting up because this unlocked a whole new world. There's face search, so you can actually take a picture from one of your ancestors and locate other pictures of them on Ancestry. You can also locate trees based on that picture. You can also go to the regular search, click smart search, click photos, and then click the filter to filter down more. And then you could just go through all of these pictures and just think about it. One of your yearbooks could have been uploaded, right? And your picture will be on there. You can probably run into pictures of other relatives, right? Like, a grandfather, grandmother, a parent's yearbook photo, or something like that. And so it's pretty fun for me. If you're a nerd, research it. But, if there's somebody on your tree that you really feel like deserves a photo because they were an important figure in your family for whatever reason, try the tactics that I used and see if you could come up with something that makes sense to your family. Like, if you showed your family members this picture and say, does this look like our kin? Just give it a try. It's fun for me. You could go the extra mile though and put somewhere on the picture that it is AI. Some people, especially the older folks, they're still a little confused. And, for some reason, some people, they get upset when you use AI pictures and they're like, this is AI. Well, duh, it is AI because, listen, he lived in the 1500s. So obviously this picture is not from the 1500s. All right. I don't know why people get upset about that. I feel like they have to call that out. But I feel like for the rest of us, it's like common knowledge. But for those who might get, a little bit confused, you might want to put on this was AI generated, so they don't lose their minds. But anyway, you guys have fun. I hope you like these tips, and I'll see you guys next time.